Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. This is episode number 38. I'm very pleased to be joined by my two co-hosts this week, Laurie Finlayson and Ethan Barlow, and what has been a truly eventful weekend for Scottish football. Saturday, both the old firm teams lost, but somehow, Ethan, that's not the biggest news of the weekend.
Yeah, Philippe Clement obviously relieved of his duties at Rangers. I think we've seen this one coming from a long time ago. And other blockbuster news, both Celtic and Rangers learn their fates in Champions League and Europa League, and other managers make their managerial debut and takeover news as well. So we've got just about everything in today's episode, so it should be a good one.
Yeah, definitely. It's jam packed. Understand, guys, the majority of this will probably be Rangers centric because that's where most of the news is coming out from. Laurie, we'll just come to you first. What's your initial reaction to the news that Philippe Clement has been relieved of his duties at Rangers?
I kind of think, as Ethan alluded to a moment ago, it's been a long time. It's been a long time coming, a bit like my return to actually being in the dugout. It's one of these things where it, it for Philippe Clement and Rangers, though, it is a case of too little, too late. He should have probably been relieved of his duties. Well, it, at the very latest, after the Queen's Park game, if not before that. And to be fair, the Rangers board were too hesitant. You always had guys like Patrick Stewart always coming out in support of Philippe Clement publicly. And to be fair, when you see and hear board members and CEOs doing stuff like that, it's always almost like the kiss of death for a manager. So it's been a long time coming, but I think it's the right call. What comes next for Rangers is obviously going to be very interesting, though, as we'll get into across the show, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. What does come next for Rangers? That's the question. And the reports are between two. The current assistant manager, he took training this morning, is Sam Charai. I'll go for. I'm not 100% on that pronunciation. Or Barry Ferguson, who will be take. It seems that the plan is to have either one of them take over to the end of the season when the American takeover might have already happened by that point. Reports are saying it will be between April and June. It should be completed in that time period. Although you never know, with these things, they're never easy. They're never cut and paste, easy to do. So you never know. But that's what the reports are saying. But yeah, I'll be honest, even though I don't really know much about the current assistant manager, I'd probably still take him over a guy who failed at Alloa, Laurie.
Yeah, I think I think that's fair comment. Of course, Barry Ferguson is, of course, Rangers legend, someone who knows the club. But like as you say, his managerial record, well, speaks for itself, but in a good way. Like player manager at Clyde, not really going to have any face from memory. Of course, manager at Kelty Hearts, manager at Alman. Of course, Kelty's always an interesting one because at Kelty Hearts, for a club of that stature, you've actually got a fair bit of money, and if you're not able to really succeed too much with that, and then obviously Alloa just doesn't work for him. So it's one of those ones where why would he be in as interim manager? Although of course when Pedro Caixinha got the manager job at Rangers, I think Barry Ferguson was going to come in and be number two. And I think when he was at interviews for the position, I think maybe open goal when he admitted this. And he said something like, I'll be where Pedro is in 5 years, I'll be manager of Rangers. And and what about now, maybe 7 or 8 years down the line, and it looks like Barry Ferguson's going to get his chance, but it looks like one of these appointments that might be done to try and get the fans on side, but might backfire. But then it goes back to the American takeover thing. Is that maybe easier for the prospective investor to swallow because it's easier to market, a club legend? If you think of the 49ers, any sort of American investor, all they're trying to do is market towards the US. And is it an easier story to sell when you've got a club legend there, not to take the good footballing decision.
I don't think so. I just think if he does become the interim manager, caretaker, whatever, he will just be there in place until the takeover happens and they can bring in their own guys. If you look at the signs, a lot of people have left Rangers and no replacements in like boardroom positions and behind in operations and that sort of thing. A lot of people have left and no replacements have been found. Patrick Stewart's kind of specialty as CEO is helping clubs through transition periods with new owners coming in, and I think the plan probably was to keep Clement there until the new owners could come in and go, because we've got to remember their story's only broke, but apparently it's been happening since the turn of the year. So um, not long after Patrick Stewart came in. So yeah, and I think the plan might have been to keep Philippe Clement until the end of the season, but it's just got to a point where they can't justify keeping him any longer. I think they've worn out they've worn out the rope. And they just kept going and kept going, and they got to the end, and they're like, I think we're done now because it can't get any worse at this point. So they just got rid of him. But yeah, like I said, I think the initial plan would have been to keep him, and Barry Ferguson or the assistant Sam Charai sound like very good appointments for that purpose. Just keeping them there to sort of watch over the team until the end of the season, Ethan.
Yeah, I think of the sort of San Francisco 49ers takeover, which we've heard about over the sort of last few days, last week almost, maybe not quite a week, just short of a week. But if that's going to come in, then you're going to be able to attract a lot better quality of managers with a bigger pool of money to spend and a more attractive proposition in general. Because currently, or this season, Rangers have underperformed from the players to the manager to the CEO and above. Obviously, Philippe Clement gets the brunt of that. He's the man who faces the media. He's the man who every few days has got to answer questions. As I've said before, I don't think he answered questions very well, which never helped his case. But I think after the Queen's Park result, he had to go. I think that was the sign that it wasn't working for him at Rangers. There's no excuse for that. And I think on 9 times out of 10, a Rangers or Celtic manager loses to Queen's Park, then they're going to be facing a tall order to sort of gain trust back from the supporters. And I think this performance at the weekend against St Mirren was arguably even worse. St Mirren really should have scored even more goals than they did. And yeah, I think that shows the state where Rangers are in at the moment. I think it maybe possibly shows that the players have sort of thrown the towel in when it comes to Clement. They're not sort of fighting for him anymore. They're not giving those performances like they did in the League Cup final, and in the Scottish Cup final last season, where they were sort of fine margins away from lifting the cups. And I think,
sorry to jump in there, but we've seen a lot of these players who are there perform to a level that is much higher than it is, even toe to toe with. Well, they beat Celtic 3-0 in January, and I know Celtic weren't good on that day, but Rangers were excellent. And we've seen these players perform to much higher levels against Tottenham, against Man United. Granted, the Man United performance wasn't as good, but it was still a good performance. And I think, Ethan, I totally agree. It looks like a lot of them have just thrown the towel in.
Yeah, and I think, sorry, just to jump in before you there, Laurie, I was just going to say, I think it's possibly because there's sort of not much to play for this season. Europa League, obviously, and I can probably guarantee you, or at least give you a good chance that Rangers team and those Rangers players would be up for the sort of European or Europa League task, which has now faced them. Fenerbahce, we got obviously confirmation of that on Friday, that they would be the round of 16 opponents, Jose Mourinho and all of those players. And I can put good money on that Rangers would have turned up for that match and they would have gave a good account of themselves and sort of Philippe Clement would have been sort of got a little bit more sort of trust of the support, but the Rangers players have not turned up for their manager, and maybe that is sort of what they wanted. That Clement wasn't the man to take them forward, and as you said, maybe he would have just been there until the summer if this takeover is going to happen. And I think to just speak on the managers that could come in, I think the Moroccan assistant that was brought in, his name's escaping me. I think he was a sort of you kind of raised eyebrows when he sort of came in as to, well, is Clement going to go maybe, and he's going to come in. And then I think with Barry Ferguson, I don't actually mind it as an appointment. Same as another one that was mentioned, Neil McCann. I think
I'd
with
rather
them, you're both getting managers who not great managers, have sort of went into the punditry route. But
the only
they're
difference
obviously
is I listen to Neil McCann and I listen to Barry Ferguson doing their punditry. Neil McCann actually seems what he knows what he's on about.
Wow. Plus, Neil
yeah
McCann, in fairness to him, one thing that really goes in Neil McCann's favour is I'm not saying he did particularly well, but he has managed the Premiership with Dundee,
yeah
and he did an interim spell very similar to this in charge of Inverness, where he had to come in and be a firefighter, and he did the job. So, I mean, and he obviously, well liked at Rangers. So I think Neil McCann actually makes a wee bit more sense than Barry Ferguson, to be honest.
yeah, and I think I'd actually agree. I think most of them. Sorry, and mostly the point that I think is why these sort of appointments at this time is sort of a positive one is because the standards they'll demand from the players is ones that maybe the players haven't experienced for a while, and especially when the sort of players you could question their performances and whether they're not deliberately, but they're not fighting for their manager. They're going to be sort of forced, I think, to fight for their manager when it's Barry Ferguson and Neil McCann, because they're obviously been in very successful Rangers teams where they'll not sort of take underperformers or players not playing for the Rangers badge. And I think that's sort of, and they'll know that they're just there until the end of the season, so they know that they're just doing a job, and they'll get a squad that's into the right mindset and right frame to kind of, when a new manager comes in that's got that sort of extra tactical edge, he has the sort of team that's hungry to fight for each other and hungry to push each other in areas of the pitch, and then you set the new manager that comes in. If a new manager, we're guessing. Oh, sorry, I just hit my laptop there. I'm guessing a new manager will come in the summer if this takeover is to happen around the summertime, as Alex mentioned. But yeah, I think it's not obviously the best appointment for Rangers, but when most of the season is nothing to play for apart from that tough Europa League tie, which I mentioned, I think it's not the worst. It could be worse, I think, for Rangers, but obviously not in a great position having to sack your manager in February.
Yeah, I think that's kind of all we've had to say about the sort of issue around that. Do you want to move on and talk about Rangers and Fenerbahce? Just sort of talk about that draw, what it means, how difficult it is. I think we kind of covered the result of the weekend. Kind of covered obviously Philippe Clement the takeover. So we'll
Well,
just.
I don't know. I want to give a bit of credit to St Mirren.
You did give credit to St Mirren.
Did we?
Yeah, you said they were really good and they should have scored more.
Oh yeah, but I wanted to go into the game a bit more in depth. I think St Mirren.
You're a wido, you know that.
How? Well, you've got to give St Mirren their flowers. No, I think St Mirren a really good performance from them. I know that it's like a struggling Rangers team, but this is a Rangers team that haven't lost in the league at home this season. St Mirren turn up and they play brilliantly. They play brilliantly to their strengths and their style, which they have done all season. Defend resolutely and go long, as we've seen so often with this Stephen Robertson team. I think, as I mentioned, they should have scored in the first half. And then Clinton Nsiala, who we've obviously raved about on this podcast, but he had two nightmares for both goals. The first one, he trips himself up, and then it's a good finish from Mandron, who missed a brilliant chance in the first half, and then Olasanya sort of just gives him a little bit of pressure, and he sort of gives up the ball too easily. But yes, St Mirren were brilliant. I think it's the first time they've completed back-to-back wins in Rangers over Rangers since 1980, and obviously the first team to do that in the league this season. So it's some achievement for them, and I think, yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because it's obviously a marquee win for St Mirren in this season, and sort of shows their progress towards pushing for that top six, as a lot of teams are.
Yeah, it was a great result for St Mirren. Yeah, basically, I think NCL needs to toughen up a little bit as well. Just building off your point there, it was really, really poor, especially the first
Aye.
time. I couldn't believe he tripped over himself. I was watching it and I was like, "Oh, are they checking this for a foul?" And I'm like, "Okay, maybe he's tripped him." And then they put the slow mo replay, and I was on the bus home from going home from work watching it, and I literally went out loud, "Oh, for sake, he's tripped over himself."
Yeah, I did see on Sky though, on the sort of Dermot Gallagher, is it the referee panel, which always seems to
Aye.
amaze me, that he said, I think he said that you can't trip yourself, but I think everyone who is watching the video can see that NCL is sort of,
What does he mean by that?
I don't know, I think he's trying to
I,
insinuate that Mandron has fouled him, but it looks to me like NCL has just kind of misplaced his feet while running and sort of tripped over himself. But yeah,
yeah.
I think the other referee decision, the Hamza Gaman one, did you think that was the right decision? I thought it was. I think it was. You could see why Clancy gave it as a red at the time, but I think yellow was probably just about right. Although it could have been given as a red. I can see those ones going either way. No,
Aye.
no thoughts on
Yeah.
that. Um,
Wait,
yeah,
hold on a wee second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I just had to check because I hadn't actually seen that incident. I'd totally agree. Yellow card. It was a correct decision in the end when he was sent to the screen.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Laurie,
Yeah.
you agree? You in agreement?
Yep, I'm in agreement, but as a general point, we've already touched upon him, and I hope he's not listening here. Dermot Gallagher, who's of course the star of Sky Sports Ref Watch, I always think he had this habit of just saying the opposite of what everyone else is actually thinking, even if the referee decision is very, very obvious. I mean, like, we'll get into probably another controversial VAR call later, and I don't know if Dermot Gallagher had any views on that, but I've got no doubt it'll be the opposite to what everyone else was thinking. Hint, hint, Easter Road.
that
Yeah.
uh, that incident, I feel, is very ambiguous, and I'll just say that the now, because I know there's been a lot of slowed down videos, but I don't because we don't have goal line technology. There's no actual way you can tell because of the angles. So I feel
Mm.
like a lot of people are being a bit harsh on the. I know you'll never hear me
Aye.
referees, but I feel like it could have gone either way.
Yeah.
No, but no, exactly. You make the point there. It could have went either way. So why is the goal being ruled out when the
Can't you believe
linesman
it?
and the referee chose to get it right? Anyway, we'll get on to that game. I think we were going to talk about we were going to talk about Rangers
Yeah,
Europa League draw.
Rangers and Fenerbahce. So Rangers will go to Turkey first of all to take on Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce, who aren't doing the best themselves this season. I think they're second in the Turkish Super League. Not, obviously Fenerbahce, Turkey is much like Scotland, except there's maybe a couple more teams that you'd expect to be up there, but famously, Fenerbahce and Galatasaray have been some of the dominant sides. And if you're not at the top, it's disaster. So I'd say maybe he's not having the best season. Obviously, they've made it as far in the Europa League. They managed to triumph over Anderlecht who had a really bad sort of fall off because they started so strong, um, and then they managed to fall out the top eight, and then they've been dumped out in the playoff round, which I thought was quite strange because they were one of the stronger sides. But yeah, so Fenerbahce put them out, and looking, it's weird. I would have backed Rangers to beat them before Philippe Clement got sacked, but now I'm not so sure. Which is weird, but I just feel like he had a knack for these European ties, and Fenerbahce have a good squad as well. So uh, I'm not sure they've got some dangerous players.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you're right. Philippe Clement did have a knack for Europe, as did, Van Bronckhorst before him. It feels like almost a carbon copy of that, doesn't it? But like,
Yeah,
it's one of those where it you do have a bit of trepidation going into the European ties, but obviously, if you look at Barry Ferguson, you could argue, I suppose, similarly to Van Bronckhorst, has been in that kind of European final environment, obviously experienced heartbreak, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, Clement gave you confidence in Europe, and that's now gone, so it's going to be hard. And Fenerbahce, as much as they're not doing great, they're still going to be a dangerous side, and Mourinho knows how to master like cup and knockout football, really.
Yeah, I think Fenerbahce will be, as Alex mentioned, strangely enough, I would have given them a chance under Clement, but I think sort of Barry Ferguson, or maybe it's not Barry Ferguson, but it certainly seems it's going towards being Barry Ferguson. Will be the sort of interim, and I don't think he has the sort of tactical nous to go head to head with Jose Mourinho. Strange enough to say it. But Fenerbahce, they're a good enough team that they should beat Rangers with the players they sort of have. They have a really good squad of players, ex-Premier League players. They've got the likes of Fred, Edin Dzeko, just to mention a few names, but they've got quality littered all over their squad.
Fred, Eko, Dusan Tadic, Eniseri, Milan Skriniar.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they've got a really kind of good base of players, and if you look to sort of Turkey, although they didn't have any Champions League representation this year, their sort of top teams have a lot of quality compared to the likes of the Scottish League. And I think Fenerbahce, they've had a few losses in the league, Besiktas and Galatasaray, which are sort of the standards, although I think Besiktas are doing pretty poor this season off the back of Van Bronckhorst stint. And then I think they've picked up a few losses in the Europa League phase, but then obviously they got that impressive win over Anderlecht. But Rangers, if they keep the tie in touching distance, heading back to Ibrox, they'll have a chance. But yeah, I'd back Fenerbahce at the moment for that one. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm probably inclined to agree. I've actually see you talking there. It's made me think about a hypothetical. See if Rangers were to go far in the Europa League and maybe make up some ground on Celtic, and Barry Ferguson's in charge. Is there a world where they give him the job? Do you think?
no, no, I don't think so. I think Rangers.
What if
Um,
Rangers were to win the Europa League?
Win the Europa League's a different question, but I can't see that happening. I don't think Barry Ferguson has the sort of tactical nous to do this, go to that sort of level. Maybe he does. See if he does in the hypothetical
hmm.
situation that you pose. Probably, and he probably deserves it. But
That's
I
what
think if
hypotheticals
he
posing it.
if he beats Celtic, maybe once and loses to Celtic once in the remainder of the season, or maybe wins and draws, and then maybe does decent in Europa League, gets to the sort of quarterfinals, and goes out narrowly. I still don't think he'll get the job. I think Rangers have got to see past the sort of short term fixes. I know if he'd done well this season, then you would sort of there would be the case to appoint him. But if you're getting those big money owners in, like it sounds like Rangers are, then you can attract a manager of a quality that Rangers should have, and a quality um, similar to across the city and Brendan Rodgers. I know that's very difficult because Brendan Rodgers is obviously a great manager, but it's sort of difficult to get a manager of that level, and Celtic have probably got the best manager they could have. But you've got to get a manager that's going to take Rangers to sort of new heights that they haven't seen since they've been back in the top leagues, and that's where Rangers need to look now. They need to stop sort of going to these short-term appointments. I know Philippe Clement and maybe a few previous ones were longer term, but they didn't work out. I think Barry Ferguson, I don't think he works out in the long term. So I would suggest that unless he pulls off some miracles, he will not be getting the job full time at Rangers.
I would very much agree with that, Ethan. Yeah, I think maybe if he was to win the Europa League, hypothetically, of course, it would be a question of do you then give him the job, but then how much of it's sentiment and how much of it's not. And I mean, you mentioned Besiktas. Obviously, they're now managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, so it's almost like if Barry Ferguson was to win the Europa League, it would feel a bit like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United, and it kind of did nearly work out in the end, that one, but that was all like sentiment. However, one thing I will say on your point, Ethan, this is maybe a bit of a counter. We can throw this to Alex, right? Obviously, you were talking about, like some of the managers not exactly being successful at Rangers since he came up. What about Steven Gerrard then? Of course, the bookies kind of jumped to the fact that he's available. I don't think he'll come in, but I would argue Steven Gerrard was successful.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
what successful.
Well, is the floor? Are you saying something, Alex, or am I? Or you want me to answer that?
I don't know.
All right, I'll go for it. I think Steven Gerrard. Don't get me wrong. I think he did a good turn for Rangers. He obviously
He wasn't a
what?
successful manager.
What is it? Sorry.
Are you going to say he wasn't a successful?
No. Listen. I said I think he done brilliant to win the league because no one expected him when he came in to win the league. An unproven manager, and I think he done very well at Rangers. He obviously left for Aston Villa, maybe because there was a more attractive offer at the time than Rangers was. He obviously didn't do too well at Aston Villa. He went to Saudi Arabia, didn't do too well there either. And I think if Rangers have got to be looking, I think, at a better manager than Steven Gerrard. I think Steven Gerrard was a good manager to hand the job at a time where Rangers weren't even challenging in the league. But now Rangers are in a sort of financial position and squad position where they're expected to challenge on a domestic and European stage. Sorry. And I don't think Steven Gerrard's the right man. And as Laurie said, I don't think he would take it anyway. But no, I don't think he would be the right candidate.
Yeah, I'd agree. I wouldn't want him back anyway. Traitor. But
Aye, but got the cardboard cutout.
no, but yeah, I think obviously the name's been floated because he's out of a job and he used to manage us and blah blah blah. But I just don't think it would be right, and I don't really see a scenario where we hire a manager right now that is one for the future. I think Ethan's covered that point quite extensively. So yeah. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this and, start a big argument. But something just stuck with me, Ethan, when you were talking about the quality of manager that Brendan Rodgers is. And Rangers being able to attract someone like him if they had the money or whatever. I'm not saying he's a bad manager, but he's not, for me, he's not a really good manager in terms of a world kind of stage. I mean, he won the FA Cup at Leicester and then he got the boot. He bottled it at Liverpool. And then he gets sacked. So, and he's had to come back and lick his wounds at Celtic, a club that he betrayed. So, and he's in his lower league career, I don't think it's anything to brag about either. So, I think he's good for the level, but I don't think he's as good as you were painting him out to be.
Okay. Well, I don't really know what you want me to say to that.
Well,
I
just
think
I,
the proof is in the pudding at in his time at Celtic and his time elsewhere. As you said, um, went close with Liverpool to winning their first league in donkey years. If a certain ex-Rangers manager maybe didn't slip famously, then maybe Liverpool would have went on to win the league. But I think he done well with that team. He obviously got relieved of his duties when it went sort of sour. I think he done very well at Leicester. Won the FA Cup. Turned them into a sort of mid-table pushing Europe team. They had a decent run in the Conference League towards the end of his
turned
tenure.
him into a
Um,
mid-table team from a league-winning team. Is that?
Well, I think they got turned into a sort of bottom half team after Ranieri sort of was relieved of his duties. And then Brendan Rodgers has been the most dominant manager in Scotland since, well, I don't know who. So I think you can't really make much of a case for Celtic to have a better manager. I don't really see what better manager Celtic could have got when Ange Postecoglou left for Tottenham Hotspur. I think I'm going to make the point, as we'll probably get on to in just a minute, about the Celtic and Bayern Munich head-to-head. I honestly think that Brendan Rodgers is a better manager than Vincent Kompany is, and I don't think that's a
Yeah,
ridiculous
that's not
statement to be
crazy.
made.
Company isn't a great manager, so
Yeah.
Yeah, but Vincent Kompany's been
relegated.
appointed by
He got
Bayern Munich.
relegated. Yeah, but that was something silly. It's because Vincent Company's a name, a big name.
Exactly.
Got
Yeah.
relegated in his first season. It's nothing to do with his quality, Ethan. Bayern wouldn't appoint Brendan Rodgers.
No, I don't think they would. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Brendan Rodgers is one of, if not the best manager Celtic could possibly have at the club at this moment.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
think
don't.
Rangers would be very lucky to have a
No,
manager.
I'd agree with that. I just don't. I just don't think in terms of like the way I don't know the way you were painting it out just made me.
I painted it out
Aye.
as what I said was the best manager, one of the best managers Celtic could have. That was the only way I painted it out. I didn't
What?
paint it out as
What?
sort of the best manager in Europe or one of the top
Aye.
managers in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
You
going to
said he
say
was a
what.
great manager.
Yeah.
He
What?
is a
What I would
great
say.
manager. He still is
What
a
do you
great
think
manager.
great is?
What I
I
would
think
say
great
is.
is a sort of he'll be remembered as a solid Premier League manager,
Yeah,
which
but
is
well, not a great manager though, is it? Like,
Yeah.
okay. In the grand
What?
scheme of things, sorry, Laurie, to keep cutting you off, but when
Uh,
you're looking at what manager in Scotland that's been in Scotland has been better than Brendan Rodgers in this century.
Name me
no,
that for a couple, maybe.
not this century.
Yeah.
Aye. Since 2000. Could you say what? Could Walter Smith be an argument?
I well, maybe not in the same sort of winning sense, but he was. I think he was a better manager than Brendan Rodgers.
Possibly, you can make the case. I think the only one that I would concretely maybe say is Martin O'Neill. But apart from that, I think Brendan Rodgers is right up the top, and that's why I say that.
Yeah.
I think he's done better, and he has a better team than what Ange Postecoglou has. I don't know if that's whether Brendan Rodgers has been backed more, and he's sort of carried on the evolution. But I think it's unfair to say he's not been a sort of great manager for Celtic, and he is a great
For
manager.
Celtic,
Yeah.
What?
great manager for Celtic. That's the
No, he is a great
That's that.
manager.
that's the key word there. No, he's not.
Yeah. Aye.
Okay.
Put
Okay.
it this way. Let's use a kind of a more extreme example. I don't really disagree with what either of you said. But think of it this way. I think what Alex is meaning is, I mean, put it like this. Like
It's
I
like
would think
comparing
Brendan Rodgers is
Henrik
like great.
Larsson to Cristiano Ronaldo or something like that, man. It's
Aye. Or I was gonna say Graham Potter, for example, who's all right to say Carlo Ancelotti, for instance.
yeah.
Like,
No. I'm saying he's a great manager, and he is a great manager. Great manager doesn't mean he's top 20 managers in the world. Doesn't mean he's top
that's what
30 managers in the world.
manager.
I can say, let me think. I can say Andrew Robertson's a great player. Doesn't mean he's even the top 10 left backs in the world.
That's
He
different though,
was.
because there's like it's a great manager to me. When I hear the word great, I think Pep Guardiola, Sir Alex Ferguson.
Okay. Well, we've got a different meaning of great.
He's a
I
good.
would call them more. I would say they're more legendary managers, iconic managers. But I think he's a solid Premier League manager, and he'll be remembered as that.
Oh, no, no,
And he'll be
we've got a
remembered as
different
a
thing on what
Celtic.
I think. Brendan Rodgers definitely is an iconic manager.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
God.
he is iconic in that sense. But no,
Yeah.
I think if you're looking, I don't think Rangers will get their next manager will not be as good as Brendan Rodgers. There we go. That puts it. That's my main point.
Just you wait. We'll get Fabian Hertzler on the door and just. I don't know why I've pulled that name off the top of my head.
He gets sacked from Brighton.
That would be cool though.
Yeah, it would be cool. I'd love Fabian Hertzler. Or I don't know. Maybe after we beat Fenerbahce, we can get Josie.
Maybe
Is Mourinho a better manager than Brendan Rodgers, or are you going to make that a crazy?
right now,
Aye.
right now,
Oh my God! Don't
right now.
even bother.
No, I'll still give it to Mourinho.
Mourinho's a great
Aye.
manager.
No, Mourinho's an
Scottish.
iconic manager.
Aye.
He's a great
Scottish.
manager.
He
What?
was, but he never isn't great. Scottish football heritage, that's all I'll say.
Okay, so that's kind of we'll wrap up the talk around all this. We kind of went on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, we'll move on to the league fixtures. I did say we were going to cover the league fixtures, but we should probably talk about Celtic's Champions League exit to Bayern Munich after a spirited performance in Munich, where they went to the very end and were undone by. It was quite unlucky from Celtic. They were excellent against Bayern Munich, although I will say they were probably the masters of their own downfall in a way, with some poor finishing and some lax defending towards the end. Obviously you can't. That feels extremely harsh because they gave 100% for almost the whole game, but I think those are some of the reasons they didn't manage to take it to extra time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, as you said, it's a bit harsh with the defensive point, especially. I
Yeah,
think our last instance, Celtic sort of just lost their any energy. I think a lot of players just just sort of froze on the spot when the ball dropped after Schmeichel made that save. Carter Vickers got there, but it was obviously too late. What are the on-rushing Alphonso Davies to get that goal to put Bayern through to the last 16 by the skin of their teeth. Although I think with the way the game was going, they probably would have went on and won an extra time anyway, because I think Celtic were dropping back and you could see they were sort of tired as they, as you said, put a great shift in. But I definitely agree with the previous point about the chances missed. In the first 20 minutes, Celtic had 4 chances, which they should have scored some goals from that. First one, McGregor has a decent chance,
I think
breaks through.
he should at least. That's the most difficult
Yeah.
of the 4, I think, but he should at least get it on target, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. He's got to. I think he's got to challenge Neuer there. Although it is a bit of a not a tight angle, but it is a tighter angle. The second one is really well worked on the counter attack from Jota. Gets it to Kuhn. His first touch kills it, but it doesn't really get out his feet, so he kind of has to poke it past Neuer without being able to generate much power. And I think it was Guerrero who got back on the line to sort of stop it, where maybe if Kuhn takes it first time on his right foot, maybe he scores. But then again, he's a lot better on his left, as we've found out this season. And then right after that, almost the second phase of play after that, Celtic have another chance. Hatate plays a brilliant ball around the corner to Engels, who squares it across the box, and Maeda's whiskers away from getting on the end of it. And then a couple minutes later, Celtic's press again causes Bayern problems. They give the ball away. Maeda has the ball on the edge of the box. He tries to sort of chip Neuer, whereas maybe the better option was to run towards goal. But I think in the first
He
20
had
minutes,
loads of time to
yeah,
maybe
I think
Aye.
he just tries to catch Neuer off his line, and he could have done, but I think the best option was probably just to drive towards goal when he had that space in front of him. But I
yeah.
think the way Celtic played
Sorry,
in the opening, no, I was just saying the way Celtic played in the opening 20 minutes was just ridiculously good. I think the first half in general, in the first maybe hour, or up until Celtic's goal, they played magnificently.
yeah, Alan Shearer was pure love at it, man.
Yeah, I know.
It was.
I think he might be secretly have some Celtic allegiance or something. Of course, Celtic fans aren't too fond of him with the Henrik Larsson song, if you know the lyrics to that one. But yeah, I think Celtic should have scored one of those goals, and you've got to take one of those chances when you're playing at the Allianz. And Bayern, they didn't have much chances in the first half. Schmeichel was not really troubled much. In the second half, Bayern had better chances. I think they had one right at the start of the second half. Leon Goretzka broke through a very similar chance to McGregor. McGregor's in the first half a little bit more central. Schmeichel makes a really good save. And then Celtic get their goal on the counter-attack. Ida comes on. He does okay for the goal. He sort of tries to play it to Maeda, who sort of classic Daisen Maeda puts the Bayern Munich defence under pressure, running like a maniac. Kim Min-jae makes a bit of a mess of it, and it falls to Kuhn, who gets the goal, which at the time you could probably say was deserved. And Kuhn gets a goal against his old team, which I'm sure he would have loved, especially when Manuel Neuer didn't even know who he was before the first leg. And then sort of after that, Celtic naturally sort of move back, and the press sort of loosens as they get tired, and obviously they're defending their lead to go to extra time.
Oh,
Um,
we've got some breaking news. Rangers
Okay.
Football Club can today announce Hall of Fame member and former club captain Barry Ferguson is to become head coach of our men's first team until the end of the season.
oh, there you go.
They've done it.
Yeah, there
Obviously,
you go.
has there been any confirmation from Rangers yet as to whether he takes charge on Wednesday or if it's the Moroccan assistant?
I don't know, but listen to this as well. Ferguson, who won 5 league titles, 5 Scottish Cups, and 5 League Cups across 2 spells at Ibrox, will be joined by Issam Chirai, Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, and Alan McGregor.
Oh, that's interesting actually. I mean,
That's very interesting.
it does sound like Rangers are putting together like an official club podcast for by the time these guys finish. Maybe that's something for I don't know,
What?
stage announcer Michael Smith to do. But it sounds like one of those ones where they're putting together, a wee team of pundits here.
What? So is
Colin
Alan
Stewart,
McGregor?
Colin Stewart left.
Wow, he's been there forever.
So is Alan McGregor the goalkeeping coach then?
Looking that way.
Aye,
That
good
is
point.
interesting. I can't imagine Alan McGregor as a sort of coach, but there's a way to get into it, certainly.
Aye,
But just going back to
Sorry,
the
that's really thrown me.
yeah. Aye,
yeah,
well,
I know.
I mean, put
I
it
can't
this way,
believe Colin Stewart's left.
Aye, like Colin Stewart is part of the furniture. I mean, his brother, his younger brother, that's the coach that come on it now. But like Colin Stewart's been there forever. What would make him leave? God,
Yeah, that's the same at Celtic. I think Stevie Woods has been at Celtic for absolutely ages as well, as long as I can remember, anyway. So that is a strange one, a real sort of maybe signifying how much change is going to go on at Rangers over the next sort of 6 months or so, even less than that maybe. But yeah, I think Celtic. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I think Celtic scored and they sort of lowered the guard only naturally when they put that much into the game. Bayern Munich started creating more chances, but they still never had anything sort of clear cut. Sort of shots from the edge of the box. Schmeichel had to make a few saves. I think he made 8 or something in total, or 9 maybe. But most of them were sort of straight down his throat. And Celtic defended brilliantly. They limited Bayern to very little. And then maybe the best chance Bayern have in the half comes right at the end. Leon Goretzka's header, brilliantly saved by Schmeichel, and then it falls. And Alphonso Davies, as I said, was the quickest to react. I think the Celtic fans were a little unhappy in the build-up, as it looked like Dyson Maeda was possibly taken out. But I think that's all stuff you not remember when you look back on it. I think you'll look back on it and look forward as a sort of positive note for Celtic. Obviously, as I said on this podcast, I just wanted Celtic to compete with Bayern Munich, and they've done that for 180 minutes, which is obviously positive for Celtic. Going forward, they get coefficient as well for the league for this result because it was a draw, whereas if it had went to extra time, maybe they don't if Bayern Munich go on to win the game. So yeah, I think it's definitely, there's positives, massive positives for Celtic. I think every player was brilliant for Celtic. But when against Bayern Munich, you're going to need a lot of luck. And Celtic just didn't have a lot of luck, and a lot of the sort of fine margins fell Bayern Munich's way, and Bayern Munich advance. But Celtic can take positives, as I said, and hopefully the rest of the league can sort of progress as well off the back of this. We know Rangers have obviously done brilliant in Europe over recent seasons, and hopefully they can go on a similar run, although, as we've mentioned, it's probably quite unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, Celtic can be really proud of what they've done, and like the way they handled the two-legged tie was. Well, I know they lost, but was actually quite impressive. I mean, you're probably more gutted at the fact that Celtic never took something at Parkhead than what has happened at the Allianz, to be honest. I mean, and I'm in no way an old firm supporter, but in that first leg, you were kind of watching it towards the end, almost cheering yourselves going. You wanted them to score because you were like, Bayern are here for the taking. And then when you watch that second leg, when you kind of thought Bayern were maybe going to show their quality and start to maybe steamroll Celtic, because that's what they thought anyway. Celtic were having none of that. And fair play to them, and then they all concede a horrible, scrappy goal. And then
Yeah, it was a horrible way for Celtic to lose. But as I said, I think when the dust has been settled as it has been now, I think Celtic can look back on it positively. Some real key performers as well. I thought Jeffrey Schlupp was brilliant. He obviously came in for Greg Taylor, which is a sort of big one of the two selection headaches. I think we spoke about that on the podcast previously about Jeffrey Schlupp maybe coming in. I thought he dealt with his former teammate at Crystal Palace, Michael Olise, brilliantly. But I think Bayern, I think they are a good team, but I don't think they're going to go on to win the Champions League. I don't think they're a good enough team. As I mentioned, I don't think they have a good enough manager. And the other team that stopped them winning at the Allianz this season was Leverkusen. And the Bayern Munich have got them in the next round. So I think Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen will probably knock Bayern out, in my opinion.
The
But
Champions League looking good, man. The Madrid derby in the next round as well.
Yeah, I think this format,
yeah.
we spoke about it, but I think it's been very refreshing. I know not everyone's a fan of it, but I think the format is a positive step, and it's more entertaining, and it's a wee bit of a change from the old sort of boring. You play two teams, and you play three teams twice. This is a lot better, in my opinion. I think you agree as well.
This is a bit off topic from Scottish football, but just when we're on the Champions League, I've just got a weird feeling that Diego Simeone is going to take them all the way finally. You know
I
what
feel
I
like,
mean?
I mean, the guy, Simeone, yeah, it's off topic, but who cares? Simeone's due a Champions League win. That guy, since what, 2011, when he was appointed Atletico Madrid manager, was he's been due a Champions League win. I mean, you've got to give Simeone his credit. Yes, Atletico have got a bit of money now, and whatever, and they're well back, they've got a new stadium and all the rest of it. But to be fair, winning the Spanish League a couple of times when you're up against Barcelona and Real Madrid, yeah, Barca, as Alex is wearing a Barcelona shirt, have had their issues. But it's one of those ones where Atletico are kind of they go under the radar when you're talking about big clubs who succeed, and a lot of it is down to Diego Simeone,
I think he goes
incredible
under the
manager.
radar. He goes
Yeah,
under the radar
definitely.
as well. And I think if he gets this, he'll be rightfully, I think he'll be up there because he's stuck. He's stuck with a club that, granted, like you said, they have resources now, but historically, under him, they've had less resources. And then, especially his most recent league win, where he did it with, I supposedly finished Luis Suarez, Kieran Trippier, just
Aye.
transformed, and then he came back to Newcastle, and like people never really, I don't know, I never really rated him when he was at Tottenham either, and then he went to Atletico, and then he's come back to England, and he's been pretty damn good, um, and yeah, he's a yeah, I really like Simeone, and I think he doesn't get his flowers yeah, he's in a difficult scenario because like, he has been competing against two of the world's football juggernauts. You would say for his whole time? But I think if he gets a Champions League under his belt, that would be the crowning achievement for him.
Yeah, definitely. I believe, I don't know if he still is, but at one point he was the highest paid manager in the world, and probably deservingly so, based off the loyalty he showed and how he's brought Atletico up as a club. As you mentioned, are still a big Spanish club, but now they are the third biggest club in Spain, no doubt. In most seasons since he's been in charge, recently anyway, they've been sort of getting to those latter stages of the Champions League, and I can see them pulling off an upset against Real, but I still back Real. I think they've got too much star power, and I'm thinking and I'm kind of hoping that we get an El Clasico final finally. I know it would have been lovely to get it in the sort of pomp of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi in their time, but I would still take one now, and I think they're
In
probably
a
the key
Glasgow
favourites
final,
as
just
well.
for Rafinha to score a hat trick and then to win 5-0 or something like that.
Yeah, well, Barca have definitely got the
Yeah,
better of Real
I
this
think I
season,
think
but
they've got Real's number in head to head.
they do. Yeah.
Head-to-head games. But yeah, the La Liga is heating up a bit as well. It's super tight in there. I think 1 point separates the three of them. So
yeah,
it's you know it looked at a point that Real Madrid were going to maybe run away with it, but the two other sides have come back into it, and it looks really exciting. Just to quickly go back to Rangers, I've just had a look at the bracket, and um, Rangers look like they've been drawn on the hard side of of the Europa League. So if Rangers were to progress and beat Fenerbahce, they would face either Roma or Bilbao in the next round. And then if they were to beat one of them, they would face either FCSB, Leon, Real Sociedad, or Man United in the semis. So
oh,
I
yeah,
think, I think Rangers have been drawn on the hard side because the other sides get the likes of AZ Alkmaar, Ajax, who aren't great this season. Frankfurt are a good side, but I feel like you could take them on their off days. Obviously, they've lost their best player as well. Bodo Glimt, Olympiacos, who have been good, but Rangers showed they can probably beat them. Vittoria Pilsen, obviously Lazio has been the standout side in the Europa League this season, but I'd say the other side is definitely weaker compared to what Rangers have to go through. So yeah, looking at that bracket, I'm getting less and less confident with every second.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the Europa League is sort of it's different to the Champions League in the sense that the Champions League will have your sort of big hitters that you expect to beat teams like I think Club Brugge and PSV are the sort of minnows in the last 16. Not minnows, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Although they are both really good teams. But in the Europa League, it's sort of more a level playing field where the teams are kind of sort of all good teams that are going to be difficult to beat, but you will have a chance to beat them. And I think for Rangers, if they can get over Fenerbahce, that would be brilliant. and I think Rangers can go into the next game with confidence, although, as you mentioned, it is going to be difficult. Bilbao doing very well in the Europa League and very well in the league. They won 7-1 at the weekend. They are kind of just behind the top three in La Liga. And Frankfurt as well, as you mentioned, another team you mentioned. They're doing pretty well in the Bundesliga, although they did get beat 4-0 at the weekend off Bayern. And I don't know if any of you have seen this, but the story with Jose Mourinho is he could play, Fenerbahce. No, sorry. He plays Rangers, obviously, as Fenerbahce manager this round. Then he could play Roma in the next round. Then is it Spurs in the semi and Man United in the final?
I think it would be Man United in the semi, Spurs in the final. It's Man United on Rangers' side.
So he's three of his ex clubs he could play in the route to winning it, which it would be a masterclass.
Which isn't going to happen. So
it could. You never know,
because you'll be out.
Spurs and Man United aren't the best teams this season.
Yeah, but it won't matter because Fenerbahce will be out after this round.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Well, yeah, true. But I suppose if they weren't, I mean, Jose Mourinho would probably tell you that his old team Spurs are, and he's not wrong, specialists in failure.
Yeah, they certainly are that, and they've got they've got a man behind them who isn't a specialist in failure, but it seems they turn even good managers into specialists in failure. Big Ange, under a lot of pressure there at Spurs. But that I'd say that's kind of it for European talk, and this podcast has kind of been all over the place. I've actually enjoyed it. It's been a more lucid sort of feeling to it. We have taken up a lot of time, so maybe we won't go normal format. We'll still go over the results, but maybe not talk about them as in depth as we usually do. Are you guys all right with that?
Fine by me.
Okay, so we've talked about Rangers. We'll come on to Celtic and Hibs. Hibs 2, Celtic 1. Josh Campbell with the brace. Celtic pulled a goal back and then equalised late on. And you're thinking, oh, maybe they can get on to the winner. VAR intervened and it was ruled out because the ball appeared to be out of play from the cross. And we alluded to it earlier. Ethan, take it away. It could go either way. That's the phrase you wanted to build off of.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. And I think you summarised it perfectly. I don't think Scotland has the technology to make these decisions. And I don't even know if the Scottish VAR has the technology to make the correct offside decisions all of the time. I feel like sometimes with offsides, it's sort of a wee bit of a guess because we've not got the camera angles they have in England and other leagues. And sometimes it does seem like, okay, well, he looks offside, but maybe he looks a little bit onside as well. But this one, I'm still baffled at how they can rule out a goal without unless they have an angle where they can concretely see that the ball is out, which I don't believe they do have. I don't know how they've came to the conclusion, or Alan Muir's came to the conclusion of ruling the goal out. I'm sure we'll see and we'll hear all about it on one of these VR reviews or whatever in the coming weeks. But yeah, I thought it was a strange decision because I thought, looking at the angles that I've seen, the sort of overhead angle, yes, it looks like the ball is out, but as we know from previously at the World Cup 2022, Daizen Maeda was involved again as Japan sort of pulled off a World Cup upset as they got out of the group that had Germany and Spain in it. And it looked like the ball was out from a sort of wide angle, but then you went to the overhead angle and you could see a little fraction of the ball was over the line. And I think that could be the same scenario here. Listen, the ball could have been out and it could be a right decision, but we'll have to see it. But Hibs deserved their win. Take nothing away from Hibs and David Gray. They've been on a brilliant run. That's 13 unbeaten. And I think if you were targeting a game for Celtic, if you were picking out a game for Celtic to play after they put that sort of performance in Munich, Brendan Rodgers wouldn't have chosen this one. Going to Hibs, one of the most on-form teams in the league, one of the most difficult fixtures. He only rotated 3 players, which kind of shows that he's not underestimating Hibs. And Celtic looked like they had put a lot in during the week. They looked like a sort of sluggish, kind of European hangover-ish performance. But Hibs took advantage of that and were brilliant from the first minute, especially in the first half. I thought Hibs were really good. The first goal, although Austin Trusty kind of presses out of position, they work it really well. Triantis, who has been one of the best players in the league since I said he was in my worst team of the season. And I think he's been absolutely immense for Hibs in this run. He picks out Josh Campbell, who finishes well past Schmeichel. And then from there on in, Celtic can't really get started in the first half. Hibs get more chances, and then they get the second goal at the end of the first half. Josh Campbell again with a header. Just really poor defending from Celtic. Originally flagged offside, they get the VAR review and clearly say that he's onside, and the goal's rightfully given. And then there's a few contentious other VAR sort of debacles in the second half. Rocky Bashiri put in a challenge on Jeffrey Schlupp where he won the ball and then followed through and caught Schlupp, but I think it was the right decision, no red card. I think Hibs wanted a penalty as well. Nikola Kukarevic went down. I think he went down too softly, and I think Celtic went up the pitch and nearly scored directly off the back of that, which would have been interesting if it had went in. But it was cleared off the line by Rocky Bashiri, I thought was absolutely brilliant for Hibs, as he has been in this run.
It's so strange because he's one that you always look to make fun of because he's one of the funniest buys in the history of the league. He's not been great, but this season he's been excellent, absolutely excellent.
Even
Definitely.
when Hibs was terrible, he was one of the decent guys, and obviously he's one of these ones that you kind of do gravitate towards because he's got Rocky on his back. I'm sure he's changed his international allegiance now, possibly DR Congo, going out on a whim there. But he does have a couple of Belgium under 21 caps, where the guy's no mug.
Yeah, he is. He's sometimes a sort of what we would call in Scotland anyway a bomb scare. But he's been brilliant recently. He's scored some brilliant goals as well. Some really sort of decisive goals. And this was the decisive moment in the game. Jota rounded Jordan Smith. He probably should have given it to Nicholas Kuhn, who was in a better position, but he went for goal and Bashiri blocked it, which at the time gave sort of kept Hibs out in front. And well, that was actually, sorry, I've muddled that about. That was after Celtic got the first goal, the Dyson Maeda goal, which was, I don't know, a Dyson Maeda classic. Real Atati mishits his shot. Dyson Maeda's the only player on the pitch that seems like they're alive to it, and he nicks in front of Jordan Smith, and scores his 23rd goal of the season. Celtic's player of the season so far, in my opinion. And I think he should have had another goal, as we mentioned. Engels sort of overhits his pass down the line to Johnston, who maybe it looks like it's went out. And then Maeda puts it in, and you think Celtic have got an equaliser, as Alex said, but it wasn't to be. Hibs held out, even though Celtic were a lot better in the second half, but they gave themselves too much to do, and a massive win for Hibs, who I now favourite for third place. I think they're the third best team in the league, and I think they will claw the gap back on Dundee United and Aberdeen. I think they will get third. For Celtic, it's another defeat. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really mean much. But Celtic will need to be better when Aberdeen come to Celtic Park on Tuesday. But yeah, a massive win for Hibs. Sort of highlights and shows the growth they made under David Gray. When we all sort of were asking the question why he wasn't getting sacked. This is probably why. Don't know if Hibs seen it going this well, but it's been a brilliant turnaround, and a lot of the credit's got to go to David Gray and the players.
Yeah, Hibs, within 3 points of fourth now, 4 points off of third. I think it's just unfortunate it's taken them this long to catch up to Aberdeen and Dundee United, and then they both win. So, but yeah, really good from Hibs, and obviously Celtic. They wouldn't be happy with that, but it didn't really matter anyway. Moving on. to Aberdeen and Kilmarnock. Aberdeen 1, Kilmarnock 0. Their new striker Daba getting the winner in the 91st minute. Laurie, I'll just come to you. Just give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll keep the thoughts rather brief because the game was very much a non-event. So yeah, very, very dull game. Two teams who were like petrified not to lose. You could still see Aberdeen are coming off the back of that horrendous losing streak. Kelly were denied a penalty by VAR, but it was the right decision where Liam Donnelly again just get tripped up, and it wasn't him being tripped up; he got tripped up over himself, and that was that. But then Aberdeen go up the other end, and they thought they'd scored through Ockles. That was given a very tight offside, literally straight after the penalty decision. And then the game was just a typical 0-0, and then as you say, the guy Daba kind of bundled a goal in right at the end, which, to be fair, was a bit of a dagger to the heart for Kelly. 'Cause it's one of those ones where, from our fans' perspective, we just wanted 0-0, back to Ayrshire, but wasn't to be.
Yeah. I think, Laurie, you seem to be saying a lot of the time when we speak about Kelly that it's a bit of a nothing game.
Yes, I do, and I will admit to that as that's how it tends to be. It's always very, as in maybe it's partly down to how we play. We don't often show that much quality. There's often games where like there's no real quality of bite into them. It's strange, and I'm not trying to say that to throw my own team under the bus or anything like that, but it's just very, there's a reason why Aberdeen against Kelly was last on sports scene, and you're lucky if there was 5 minutes of highlights on it.
Yeah.
You seemed of recent. You seem to have a lot of the play in games and doing nothing with it, and then another team would hurt you, and they did with their prolific Palestinian. I've been working on that for the past couple of minutes, so
Yep.
just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, Aberdeen back to back wins. They seem to be on the up, and yeah, I'm sure they'll be very pleased. Kilmarnock, obviously, not so pleased. But as I was just looking at the table there, and we say this every week, but it's so tight in there. You just never know what's going to happen, do you?
No, the table's mental. Like, I mean, even look, come on, we're now what, 9? And I mean, what, last week who are gutted not to be in 6th,
Well,
all because
Motherwell are 10th now.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, oh,
Yeah. I think Kelly. Oh, I don't know with Kelly. I don't know. I keep
no.
saying I'm backing them, but I don't know if they're going to get top 6. I don't know. I think it's going to be very close
I think
between
St
lots
Mirren
of
for
teams.
me are emerging as the team to take that sixth
Aye,
Maybe,
position.
but St Mirren are also prone to a bad run and a stinking performance as well. So
Yeah,
and
but
they're
I just feel like
still,
they're a bit more consistent, and they're
yes,
them as a side this season for me feel a bit safer. If I was a betting man, which I
aye,
am, I would bet on St Mirren rather than Kilmarnock, and I feel like that third to fifth position is pretty much locked up unless either one of those three go on a horrific run. I feel like Hibs are on the up. Dundee United are getting their form back. Aberdeen seem to have found their feet again after a horrible run. So that looks pretty much theirs. And I feel like sixth is the one for the taking. And for me, I think St Mirren are the front runners.
yeah, that's definitely a fair point to make. I think I agree with you. I think third to fifth. I think I back all those teams to sort of do enough to stay in the top 6, and then it could be anyone. I think we'll get on to it, but I think Dundee are slowly sort of fading away. But I think Kelly and St Mirren and Motherwell and Ross County all have a sort of fighting chance at that 6th place. But yeah, Kelly, as Laurie said, there wasn't really much in the game. But yeah, big goal for Daba, his first and his second appearance, and yeah, he'll hope that he can sort of carry that form throughout the rest of the season and help Hibs to a third place finish.
Yeah,
Hibs, I say Hibs there. I
Yeah,
say
he
help
did.
help
Aberdeen.
Aberdeen, sorry.
Aberdeen.
If he helped Hibs, he might be investigated for match fixing or something like that.
Yeah, it would be, and the sort of the betting would come into question as well, maybe.
Yeah, him and Sandro Tonali, best buds. But yeah, it is getting exciting. A lot of chatter around Scottish football in general. We'll still get a few more games to cover. So on to the last fixtures. We'll come on to Dundee United getting back on winning form. Sam Dalby back on scoring form, getting the win over Michael Wimmer's Motherwell. I haven't been super up to date. Was Wimmer in the dugout, or is he still waiting on work permits and stuff like that? Or
Yeah,
No, he was
yeah,
in.
he was there, and his assistant as well.
is yeah, oh, football was so bad. They've still got Motherwell listed Stephen Frail.
All
Yes.
right. He
Hopeless.
he he left as well. He's gone, so he's looking for a job himself.
I've noticed FootMob's coverage of the Scottish Premiership has got worse over recent weeks. I don't really know why, but yeah, it was Verma that was in charge for this game, and I think from what I've seen looking at the stats and the highlights and what I've heard from Motherwell fans, I think they were quite pleased with how they played despite losing the game. I think they've seen a lot better signs than what they have done in recent weeks under Frail and then to the end of Kettlewell's tenure. But
Oh,
obviously Dundee United get the win.
I thought you loved Stuart Kettlewell.
Not even gonna answer. Not even gonna bite.
You're clueless.
Yeah, yeah, I'm clueless.
Complete and utter
Oh,
ignorance.
yeah,
Aye.
exactly that.
For context, for anyone wondering, Ethan put out a tweet about Motherwell the other week or a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of got bombarded a little bit by some angry Well fans. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I did.
it's
But
funny.
no, it's all right. It's all right. I respect the Motherwell fans. Maybe they were right because they did look like they played some better stuff at the weekend. Obviously, Dundee United and Tannadice is a tough place to go, and Dundee United just about won the game with that Sam Dalby header, which takes them further atop of the goal scoring charts on 12. It's not been a very sort of score heavy season for the sort of for any individuals when we've only got 12 as the top goal scorer. But oh well. I mean, we'll get on to a player that might even have signed in January that might push Dalby at the rate he's going.
I know, bloody hell.
But yeah, a good win for Dundee United after a sort of tough run. The first win in five for Jim Goodwin. For Motherwell, it's their sixth straight loss. But I think the fans can see better, can see a brighter future ahead. Yeah, that's all I've got to say on this game, really.
Yeah, I think that summed it up quite well. I mean, Michael Vimmer does seem an interesting appointment, and he will take time to get it right. But I mean, credit Dundee United for getting back to form. And Sam Dalby, by the way, you've got to remember he was a guy that's kind of seen as a bit of an outcast at Wrexham. So who knows where he'll be at Dundee United next season? I think he could be. I think he will be there next season, and it could be interesting.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people talking about Sam Dalby that he doesn't do a lot out with. He's sort of scoring goals and stuff like that. But he's the top scorer in the league, and Dundee United wouldn't be in the position they are without his goals. So I think you've got to give him credit for what he's done coming up here and sort of giving his career a sort of boost wherever
Sorry,
he ends up
can I
beyond
just
the
jump
summer.
in with something I've just seen that's kind of crazy? So, you know when Celtic played Young Boys were down towards the bottom of the Swiss league. I've just seen
Yeah.
the Swiss table there, and from first to sixth, Young Boys being in sixth, they're separated by 5 points.
Yeah, I know it's ridiculously tight in that league.
I mean
I think they
that
were Sorry, I was just going to say I think they were like 8 or 9 points off the top when Celtic played them. But I think they've done decent since they got that new manager in that played like his second game when Celtic played them.
Yeah, but I've got to say just quickly, it puts that Swiss League table then, it puts the Scottish Premiership to shame. I mean, wow. We think our league's tight.
Yeah, it's like anyone really could win that league. I think it's the same with a few of the leagues. Sorry, I think the Austrian league's quite tight amongst a lot of the teams as well. And then obviously the big leagues, the Spanish league's the main one. It's sort of really tight between the top three anyway. But this league's sort of tight from, I want to say, sort of third to 10th. Well, 11th's close as well, but I don't know. We'll get on to Dundee. But Dundee United, good win for them after a tough run of games, and things possibly on the up for Motherwell.
Yeah, definitely. Laurie, have you got much to say on this game before we move on?
No, I wouldn't say I've really got anything else to add, really. No, I wouldn't say so. Let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, on to the next game. The Staggies with a 3-1 win over a drowning Dundee, it seems. They've really, oh my
Mm.
goodness. I know this sounds like I'm taking a mick, but I'm actually kind of shocked how
Yeah.
far they've kind of fallen. So their last win obviously came in the derby in the Scottish Cup against Dundee United. Then a 6-0 loss to Hearts. Sorry, their last win came against Airdrie. My apologies. But their last sort of like win against a top flight side. There we go. So then they lost 6-0 to Hearts, 6-0 to Celtic. They won 4-0 against Airdrie. They lost to Aberdeen. Aberdeen breaking their streak. Imagine how terrible you need to be to lose to Aberdeen. And then,
Okay.
and then obviously they've lost to Ross County. Ross County are a funny one. I feel like some weeks they look really good, and some weeks they look terrible. Kieran Phillips got the goal after equaliser after Sammy Murray opened the scoring after 4 minutes. Akil Wright, another performer this season, a top performer for Ross County, on track for still in my opinion on track for goal of the season. What
Excellent.
what a strike!
This one wasn't bad either. If you've seen it, a sort of yeah, it was an overhead kick. I'm calling it an overhead kick from the corner. I mean, it's terrible defending from Dundee, but he adjusts himself well and gets it in. So there was a few really good goals in this game. The Simon Murray one was a brilliant goal as well.
And then Noah Chilvers, proving Ethan wrong every single week.
Not every single week, but yeah, most weeks.
Most weeks he's going,
uh,
he's showing you the finger.
Yeah, him and Triadis, I think, are my worst calls. Yeah, I think I'll happily redeem my statement, or not redeem, sorry, retract my statements on them, because they've been some of the team's best players since I said that.
That's so funny.
Silver's,
I've just seen the Simon Murray goal, and I find this so hilarious. So he apologised because he obviously played for Ross County, but when he scored in the Dundee derby, he was giving it. That's brilliant, man.
And then, and to be fair, you can't really do that with a Dundee derby because I mean, you can't. I mean, there's not a closer derby in the world, really, is there? I mean, they're literally separated by a street, so you could get, oh goodness me, a bit kind of a brass neck shown there by Simon Murray. And to be fair, obviously, come the end of the game, he had to eat humble pie. His former employers, showed him who his boss, really.
yeah, I think Simon Murray has been the sort of one of two positives for Dundee this season so far, going along with Lyle Cameron. I think Dundee, they have been at the bottom of the, if you're into expected goals like the expected points table, Dundee have been at the bottom for quite a while now. And that's why I always go to the point, I don't think their football is very sustainable. And I think they rely a lot on sort of moments of magic from those two a lot of the time. I mean, this goal was just, he's outside the box, he just has a pop, and it's a really good goal. So I think I can kind of see why they're in the position they are. They're sort of drifting away from the pack. That's what, the 4 points behind Motherwell, is it now, who are in 10th. So yeah, it's not looking good for Dundee, and they'll need to pick it up. And you thought they would maybe kick on after those draws against Celtic and Rangers, the win against Dundee United in the Cup, and that was when they were sort of, their team was coming back to full health, as they had a lot of players out for those Rangers and Celtic games. But yeah, it's not really worked out that way, and yeah, they're in a tough spot, and they'll need to pick up form because the rest of the teams will leave them behind, and they obviously don't want St Johnstone catching up either. But for Ross County, a really good performance and a really good win, and now they're just 2 points off the top six, which is crazy to say for Ross County at this stage in the season. And crazily enough, they can only either win home games or only either win away games, it seems, because that's the first home win since November,
Wow.
which is crazy to think about. They obviously had that terrible run at the start of the season where they couldn't buy an away win for the life of them, but now it's been at home they've been struggling, so they'll be happy to get over that hump.
Yeah, definitely. Laurie, are you worried about Ross County?
I mean, I don't know about worried. I mean, again, it's hard. It depends which Ross County team turn up, and of course, from a command point of view, if you're saying about worried, well, we actually do play them this coming weekend. Of course, Kelly are playing against Rangers on Wednesday.
I
Then
know you don't need to worry about that. You'll win that, so it doesn't.
aye, but we've not won. We've not won. We've not won in Dingwall since, I want to say it was something like 2017 or something like that. Our record in Dingwall is horrendous. And so I actually do have more confidence in beating Rangers at Rugby Park than I do going to Dingwall and winning. And that has nothing to do with how poor Rangers have been or the managerial situation. So I'm not scared of Ross County in terms of, like, I think they're much better than us or anything, but I do think they might end up getting some points off of it at the weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
although it's so tight in there for me for some reason, I don't know if you guys are the same. It's always been kind of them two for me. If you know what I mean, like you guys have been in similar positions for the majority
Yeah.
of the season. You've always kind of been round about each other. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but that's I keep drawing
yeah.
them together in my head.
No, I get what you're saying.
Hmm.
I can remember you making sort of comparisons between them before, and I think of the teams that I mentioned in the running for sixth place, I completely forgot about the team about to get on to, Hearts. So sorry to
Yeah,
any Hearts fans, but I think Ross County, if they were to get in, it would be. I think it would be a brilliant story for Ross County. The same as it has been for a lot of the teams that have sort of unexpectedly crept into that top six. I don't think anyone sort of seen Ross County doing that this season if they go on to do that. But then again, Ross County could easily fall down into the relegation playoff, where I think that's where I had them predicted, like they did last season. But yeah, I think Don Cowie's doing a really good job with them. He's keeping them this season alive and something to play for in that top six place, which for Ross County is brilliant. Keeps the fans engaged, keeps the attendances up. So yeah, it's really going well for Ross County at the
yeah. I
moment.
think
For
I'm going to need
Dundee,
to
not
retract
so well.
what I said about Don Cowie earlier in the
Yeah.
season. I said I didn't rate him very highly, and I thought he just had a decent squad. But no, I think I was wrong on that front, and I'll admit it. I think he is quite a good manager.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, we all make mistakes, as I have with before, and with Triantis and Chilvers, especially this week.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of something to retract on my part. Did I not initially put Chris Cadden in my worst team of the season rather harshly? I think you guys might have talked me out of it, so maybe I'll retract that
yeah.
one.
Yeah, he's been a lot better, although he didn't start the weekend,
Did
which
we
was quite a
did
strange
we
one.
put Rocky Bashiri in it?
I don't think we did, actually. We might have done, but I don't think we did.
Because it just feels like something we do, like a default.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a disaster as well.
Or actually, one of you guys, I don't think I did, one of you guys might have put Joe Wright in it. Because that's been doing okay as well.
I think that was
Yeah, I think
justified. That was well justified at the time. No,
yeah.
No. At the time it was, goodness me.
yeah. Well, we'll move on to Perth. St Johnstone losing 2-1 to Hearts. We've kind of talked about the scenarios in the league. St Johnstone kind of 6 points adrift at the bottom. We can talk about the game to death, but I want to talk about the man that Ethan alluded to earlier, Mr. One goal a game, Hilton Kabangu. 7 goals and 7 appearances since joining on loan from USG. He's got 5 in the league. Uh, this guy looks like the real deal. And yeah, we floated the idea of Hearts solved their problem. Have they managed to get a goal scoring presence back in the squad? Because Vargas is not great. Shankland's having a poor season. And it looks like they've found that with Kabangu. And Shankland looks like he's enjoying that role of maybe not having to be the main guy to rely on for the goals because he seems to be pulling the strings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. You see Shankland, even sometimes when he plays with Wilson before Kabanga got there, Shankland playing as a sort of behind the striker and sort of the pressures. Obviously, when Wilson was there, Wilson's a young player. The pressure's still on Shankland to get the goals. But now with Kabanga in, who's firing them in, he obviously had that bit of a terrible performance against Rangers last week. But out of that, he's been brilliant for Hearts and he's propelled them up the table with his
Yeah,
goals. And yeah, I think this was actually a decent game for the sort of teams you're looking at. I thought it was quite entertaining actually for sort of St Johnstone, who have been the poorest team in the league this season, evidently. But I thought St Johnstone made a good game of it, and it was a tight game. Kabangu got 2 sort of striker goals, the first one especially. And then, yeah, and St Johnstone fought back and were unlucky not to get that second goal that was obviously ruled out by offside. Craig Gordon made a world class save as well.
just to add to my point about Shankland, he's got 7 assists in all competition this season, which is his highest tally since I think it's 2018-19 with Ayr United. So
Wow.
yeah, he's only got 4 goals, which is not good for a player like Laurie Shankland. But maybe he's evolving into this role, and and he's got Kabangu. Wilson's got the support of a more experienced player beside him now. Kabangu obviously being 27, 28, I think. So yeah, maybe this is the way forward for Hearts. If Kabangu keeps going like this, they probably won't be able to get him. But
Nah.
maybe this is the way forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I would go along with that. Kabangu had been very impressive, and of course, I actually saw him in action when Kerry were at Tynecastle. And yes, there was debates whether that goal was offside. But I tell you what, he was something of a threat that day. He got his goal. Whether you think it's offside or not is by the by, really. And he did look quite impressive. And what you say about James Wilson as well, Alex, that's a good point. I mean, put it this way, Shankland, even when he's not firing, but he's getting some assists, Kabangu and young Wilson, that's actually a pretty decent forward line, if we're being honest about it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. And I think that's what Shankland needs. He needs the pressure off him to sort of relax and play his football when there's not all that chat around him. Because obviously he has had a very poor season by his standards. Only the 4 goals, which is just unthinkable for Shankland, based off what he's done the last few seasons. But yeah, Hearts, I forgot to mention them talking about teams for 6th spot, but I would favourite them. I think they've got the sort of squad, as we know. I think some of us tipped them for 3rd place at the start of the season. So I think Neil Critchley's kind of turned it around. It took a wee while, but I think they're convincing the fans now They're playing some good stuff. They're getting the results to go with it. And I pose the question: if Hearts get into the top six along with Hibs, Aberdeen, Dundee United, Celtic, and Rangers, is that the biggest six clubs in Scotland?
I
Uh,
probably would have to say so personally. I mean, it's hard. We kind of alluded to this earlier on, where I mean, managers often, talk about this. I know Derek McKinnon's quite big on talking about this in the press and when he's on the telly, but like, there's only ever really one spot that should be up for grabs. So I know even some of the managers have that sort of mindset. Ethan, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. I think five of them are sort of, I would say, undebatable. I think Dundee United's the one where you could maybe make a case for another team.
Yeah.
But I just posed the question because, yeah, I think it's an interesting because we don't often see that a season where all of Hearts, Hibs, and Aberdeen turn up enough to be all in the top six along with Celtic and Rangers.
I don't
Um,
know. Feel,
and
I feel
obviously,
like I don't know if I'm making this up in my head, but I feel like maybe not recently, but past years, Partick Thistle were quite a big side, and obviously they had a couple of European adventures as well. So, uh, yeah, but I'd say modern era, you're probably correct.
yeah, definitely. I think Partick Thistle are one of the biggest teams in Scotland. You're not putting Kelly forward, Laurie?
Um, I wouldn't put us forward in terms of the size of the club and infrastructure, whatever. Maybe you could argue in terms of actually a lot of Scottish clubs with maybe prestige and history and whatnot. But actually, if I'm being totally
If
honest,
we're going to talk
we've
about
got.
prestige and history, we'll just shove Queen's Park in front of you then.
But that's it. There's an argument between ourselves and Queen's Park. Also were founded, in kind of similar times. They were, of course, first. But that's it, Alex. That's the point. Like we are maybe a team that's kind of on that cusp, but that's very much where we are on the football pitch as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I thought it was an interesting point to make because I can't see past Hearts now. Now they've got that sort of goal scoring presence. I would love to sort of see a Ross County or a Kelly pull off a little bit of not an upset, but you're obviously with the position Hearts are in and the form they're in, they're obviously going to be the favourites to get that
I
spot.
feel like St Mirren.
Oh, yeah, St Mirren as well.
I'm going to
Yeah.
take that. I don't know.
You think,
It's like. Would you rather take talent over hard work? If you know what I'm trying to say, I think the
yeah,
I think the hard work will get there. You know what I'm trying to say? St Mirren just have that kind of grittiness
Yeah,
about them. Their teams full
totally.
of massive. I was about to swear there. Their teams full of massive guys, man. And they've got some quality as well. And they're hard working. They know the mission, and
yeah,
they'll do everything they can to complete it. And Hearts, I feel like, are susceptible to a bit of, obviously St Mirren have been on bad runs, but I just feel like they're a bit more reliable. And Hearts have players in there that are a bit inexperienced, like your Wilsons, like your Foresters. So and
yeah,
performing players as well.
yeah.
Uh,
That's definitely a fair point to make. I think St Mirren know the sort of style of play they want to play. Everyone knows the style of play they want to play. Stephen Robinson is a good manager. I'll say good manager, if that's allowed. And I think,
I don't know
I
about
think,
that one. I'd say Brendan Rodgers is a good manager. Stephen Robinson's all right.
but no, I back Hearts. I still back Hearts. But yeah, it would be really interesting because we don't really know. And for St Johnstone, they fought well in this game, as I said. They got the goal. Sidibe, the goal was very similar to Kabanga's first goal. It was almost a carbon copy of it. And that's Sidibe's, strangely enough, he scored against Hamilton in the Cup with that weird goal the other week. But that's his first goal in the league since August. Any guesses as to who that goal was against, Laurie?
I'm not going to say a word because he celebrated right in front of my face.
Yeah, it was at Rugby Park, and that day it was, what was it, 3-0, and he got a
Yeah.
double after Kelly went down to 10.
All
Um,
right.
Well, actually, I think Kelly have got a bit better recently with the disciplinary, haven't we?
Well, Joe Wright was the
Touch,
lost king at the start
touch
of the
wood,
season.
aye.
Yeah.
That tackle still
But yeah, I think
baffles me. Like, what was he doing?
What the one against St Johnson?
Yeah, what was it? What
To
was
be
he?
honest with you, to be honest with you, I have no idea because he was booked moments earlier. That was a second yellow, believe it or not.
Yeah, and then he
Like,
just flew in like a madman, and I'm like, from behind, I think it was as well. So
yeah.
yeah,
absolute nutcase. On the
Yeah.
football pitch,
He's
I'm
turned
sure.
his season around.
On the football pitch, he was, but I'm sure he's a lovely guy in real life.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah. But even with St Johnston, they've what is that, 2 defeats on the bounce now, I think.
Yeah,
6
Yeah,
points at the bottom. But they're still sort of in that sort of they're still in touch and distance. If they can string a run
yeah.
of games
We,
like you
we
just
thought they
said.
were gone, and they managed to
Yeah,
get a couple of wins under their belt, and other teams around them, like Dundee, are not performing either. So they can
yeah,
still see them. They can still see the light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah. And they nearly did get that equaliser with Dre Wright's header, which is a really good header, but it was just offside. I think Sky were debating whether it was on or offside, but I think it looked pretty clearly
Oh,
offside.
what did Ref Watch say?
I don't
Actually,
know. I don't know if they covered that one.
it was the most onside thing I've ever seen. I don't know how they could have possibly given it offside. And he's just, I don't know, he'd probably give one where the guy's whole body's offside, and he's like, well, if you actually look, the hair of his armpit is playing him on. I nearly swore again there. But
Oh,
yeah, do you remember
that's
when
refereeing
Firmino
for
got
you.
flagged offside for his armpit in the Premier League?
I'm
Roberto
gonna say it was an
Firmino.
armpit. Yeah,
It was like
no,
down
yeah, I
I don't
remember
like
think
that.
so.
here, and he got flagged offside. Absolute
Yeah.
mental. But anyway, I think that's that.
It was when
Oh,
they first brought VAR in. Just quickly, it was when they first brought VAR in, Ethan. So we're talking 2019-20, if memory serves, in the EPL. I only remember because I was actually writing this should be how long ago this was, an English folio piece at school, and it's one of the things that I had, like, and I mentioned the Firmino case. That's how long ago that was. There you go.
wow. Yeah, because you're like 35 now, aren't you? So, uh, but anyway, that's that for this week's episode of the Dugout. It's been a long one. We've had a couple of technical issues, so yeah, but hopefully it turns out okay. I've really enjoyed it actually. It's had a bit more of a loose feel, and it's yeah, it's me and Ethan got into it a little bit, but you know we're all friends at the end. Thank you to
Yeah.
you guys. I've really enjoyed myself this time. What about you?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been brilliant. Good to be back on, and good to be effectively umpire during the Brendan Rodgers debate. That was good.
yeah, yeah. It's good to have you back on. And as you said, as you both said, I think this was a great episode.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone for watching and listening. Go check out our Twitter at the Dugout 2024. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.